if it works better than OpenSea, I have no problem. Like I've been using OpenSea less and less.
Not
I've
to go and
definitely,
mention though, those other exchanges have lower fees on them,
yeah.
which can
Sorry,
add
that
up too, right? And there's a rewards embedded in them too for using their platform rather than OpenSea just absorbing their 2.5%.
Anything other than OpenSea. OpenSea is so bad. I still use it out of habit if I'm trying to move something fast. Like, yeah, OpenSea, because that's where most of the volume is. But yeah, you're better off using Luxfer, or X2Y2. OpenSea just fumble after fumble. Someone will replace them. There's just no way.
What's up, guys? It is Thursday, August 4th, and we are back with another episode of Exit Liquidity here with the Alpha Mint Gang, Drip Cult, Dirty Milk. It is episode number 2. I guess 2.5, if you want to call it that, whatever. But it's been a good run so far. The response has been fantastic, and I am just so excited to be back here with you two, recording another episode. We got a great show lined up for everyone today. We're going to be talking about the huge Solana hack that went down across the board, over 8,000 wallets affected, as well as the Nomad hack, which honestly, in terms of dollar value, just dwarfs the Solana one. We have Gucci jumping in and accepting ApeCoin. We have Meta kind of building their way towards their own metaverse. Instagram is going to be integrating NFTs and wallet support as of today. That's pretty big news. And we have Cool Cats doing another drop. And what else did we have? We had one or two more. Of course.
You have to wait and find out.
Yeah, wait and find out. Yeah, okay. Perfect. Without further ado, again, I'm joined with Drip Cult and Dirty Milk. Boys, how we doing? How's our week been since the last time we were on air and doing this show?
It's been good. I've had a decent week trading, to be honest, which has felt nice. Shout out Clampy.
Keep going.
In the Alpha Mint Discord, he's had some good recs out there. So if you're thinking about getting out in the market, do it. There's money to be made.
Yeah, NFTs are not dead. Some of them are pretty degen mints going on right now. But, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But, if you can have a good week and you can really start to get a good feel for how the market plays out, which I have absolutely not, you seem to be doing all right. You got a couple of NFT drops that you've done well on, Dirty?
Yeah. I hit on those rare APEs. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, horrifying looking things too, by the way.
Yes.
They as far as like they do look horrifying, but the quality of them like wasn't bad, which is like the main reason I minted. I think I minted 11 for under 0.01. So it was like huge upside.
And they ran up to like last time I saw like what 0.3 or over?
Yeah, I sold I sold one for 0.33. The rest I sold are like before 0.05 just because it was a 0.01 mint for 11.
Yeah,
but
this market profit.
They had a good run, so I made some good profit off that. And then yeah, it's sweet.
Cool. Drip, what about you, man?
Yeah, and I definitely haven't been degenning like Dirty. Like, definitely shout out to Clampy. I did follow one of his calls, and it would have been a good play if I didn't walk away from the computer. I totally thought we were going to go to the moon, and should have known better. But that's my own fault. The price definitely went up, so if I was paying attention or if I was near the computer, I would have definitely gotten out for a quick double. But yeah, it's been a good week. Just doing the back end and all this stuff, and I know we had a couple meetings to get everything all dialed in, and we got some more roles figured out, and we're gonna have a better and smoother show, and some more clips and everything for everybody, so that'll be nice.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of discussion about how we can just continue to do things bigger and better here with not only Exit Liquidity, but of course, Alpha Mint. If you haven't, take the time to sign up for our newsletter at exitliquidity.io. It's going to be going out twice a week. It's going to be complimentary to this show and some of the other clips that we do, of course, as well as aggregating a bunch of other news that kind of didn't make the cut for this show. So it's really great. I have actually been reading it in the morning myself, just logging in there and just seeing what's going on in the world of crypto and NFTs. Just, a good, light, easy read provided, lots of links provided. So, if you something piques your interest, you can just kind of follow the rabbit hole. And if it doesn't, you can just kind of gloss over it. So that's been fantastic. As always, like we're going to be doing this show weekly and a bunch of other reaction type stuff and reacting to more, prominent news pieces that happen throughout the week so that we don't have to wait a week to talk about it. So if you want to make sure you're following all of that, please just hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this episode. It really does help us out. I won't ask again this show, but we always appreciate any kind of support that you guys like to give us. So without further ado, let's actually just get into the bulk of the show. And we're going to be talking about the Solana hack. Quite a good 48 hours of mayhem, confusion, and just a lot of money being lost in the Solana ecosystem. Of course, as I mentioned before, over 8,000 wallets have been affected, and for quite some time, nobody had any idea why, because these were a lot of inactive wallets that were going, funds were going missing from. In ETH, you sign a transaction, you do a degen mint, they turn out to be a wallet drainer. You follow a phishing link. A lot of times, these hackers don't wait too long to kind of pull off their hacks, and of course, that makes it pretty easy to narrow down the source of it, where it's going, and what you have to do to prevent yourself from doing it. That was not the case during the Solana hack here, where wallets that had been active for upwards of 6 months, hadn't signed anything, hadn't minted anything, hadn't purchased anything, moved anything, were all getting drained. And of course, that patience on the end of the hackers really make for a difficult situation. Now, it turns out that they did start to narrow down where the problem was, and it looks like it was basically on the Slope wallet. Now, Slope is a Slope.finance, which is I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know a ton about it just because I've never really operated in the Solana ecosystem. But it's not exclusive to Solana. But of course, you can transfer or import that wallet into Phantom. It appeared like maybe Phantom was a source of the problem. However, that was determined not to be the case. So, anyways, at the end of the day, any wallets created on Slope Finance basically had their backend exploited, and all of the seed phrases were viewable by these hackers. And at that point, it's game over. It's not about signing contracts, not about revoking access. It's not about anything else other than your wallet is completely exposed, and they took full advantage of it, getting over $5 million in funds. Not exactly the biggest hack we've ever seen, but when random wallets just start getting drained all of a sudden, all at once, and we have seen this with ETH in the past with the phishing links where they waited a long time, it does cause a lot of panic, a lot of confusion. And I think Solana ends up with a little bit of a black eye, as it always seems to, whether it's the network not being down, whether it's the criticisms that it's not exactly decentralized because the devs can kind of shut down the network as they need to, or whether it's wallets getting hacked. I know that none of us really particularly operate on the Solana ecosystem, but what do you think about Solana when these things just keep happening? Because before this, and particularly when we were running the AM show a lot, which we'll be back, by the way, people always said, get ready for Solana summer. Get ready for Solana summer. This is the summer. This is the summer. And then the network would go down, and then it would go down twice in a week. And then these big hacks would go down. And by and large, there's nothing really overly exciting happening. What is propping up the Solana network? Why are we even still talking about it, to be honest with you? Dirty, why don't you hit me with what you got?
I mean, VC for sure. VC money for sure. I know there's a ton of that in Solana. The overall, I haven't been super turned on by the Solana ecosystem. It's just kind of because of all the issues with this hack. I don't think that they're necessarily to blame. Obviously, it being the more of a Slope issue. I'd be like me if like my MetaMask got hacked. That's why this is alarming to me, though, is that like if my MetaMask got hacked and it wasn't my fault, I don't know how I would feel. Like that's gnarly in my opinion. I mean, that's the reason why I keep most of my ETH on and cold storage and just kind of have my degen wallets with just like the, no more than like 0.05 at a time just to hit those free mints and stuff like that. But yeah, this definitely doesn't make me want to get more involved with the ecosystem.
Well, and you raise a great point about the hardware wallets, right? The cold wallets where you keep the majority of your stuff. And we say this time and time and time again. If you have anything that's of value to you, and that's not even just a particular dollar value, right? a Bored Ape to someone might not even be worth that much compared to their whole net worth. Whereas if you're holding an NFT that's worth 1.5 ETH, and that's a large portion of your net worth, that is, of course, very valuable to you. And if you're not actively trading it and you want to hold it, get a hardware wallet, put it on there and keep it safe. Because one of the things that would have prevented a lot of this from happening was that any wallets generated from a ledger that uses Solana, right? Those seed phrases are held on the ledger device and never actually touch the internet, and therefore, the hackers that were operating this and many of the other schemes would never actually have access to that. And it, again, just highlights the importance of having a hardware wallet. Sure, it costs a little bit of money, but the amount of time and energy, well, not really time that it'll save you, but the amount of headache that it will save you if you are ever the victim of something like this. And again, this is the big thing. This wasn't user error. We often criticize, like, what are you doing signing a transaction? What are you doing with this degen mint on your main wallet and whatnot? This wasn't really anybody's fault except for the fact that they were using Slope and didn't have it on a hardware wallet. Drip, what's your takeaways from all of this?
So I was just looking up. I mean, man, you can get a ledger now for like $80. It's like it's not that much. Just skip a couple degen mints and protect yourself. I mean, yeah, ultimately it's not Solana's fault, but they're taking the biggest L here. Like, because all people are going to take away from this is, oh, Solana hack. They're not going to actually. No, most people aren't going to dig into finding out why or what happened or the all the logistical things that went into it or caused it. Like, most people probably forget that it happened in a couple days. But they will remember that it was a Solana hack, and that it ultimately means Solana is going to be responsible, even though they weren't. I mean, that's just how it's going to go, especially in anyone that is not in crypto, like in the mainstream media or any people who are not in crypto at all they're going to hear is Solana hack, and that's it. They're, oh, cool. I don't want to deal with that. I don't need to invest anything into that. I don't need to trade on that. I don't need to buy any NFTs on that. And it's going to hurt it. I mean, Solana already didn't have a good record, so just another, as you said, black eye on them. So that ultimately is a bummer.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Oh, sorry, Dirty, please.
Sorry, I was just going to say, like, I feel like a good rule of thumb is if your holdings are worth more than the price of a cold storage, get a cold storage. Like, if they're that cheap, like it's just as simple as that. If you don't, I mean, and any amount of money you don't want to lose, but if you don't want to spend most of your money to buy a cold storage, I could see that. But if your holdings are worth just more than the cost of one, just buy a cold storage. You won't regret it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I think about, like, if I have like $500 or $1,000 in something, like, do I want to lose that? Like, absolutely not. Will I get over it? Yeah, I will, for sure. But when you have one of these main crypto wallets that will, if all of a sudden it were to go to zero, it would cause you to lose sleep at night or anything like that, then yeah, the price of a hardware wallet is more than justifiable. And you know what? I mean, if you're declaring taxes and stuff like that, like, that is a business write-off as well, or not a business write-off. It's like a personal, like, you need this to operate it. So if you're paying taxes on, of course, consult your local accountant before you try that, because every area is different. But yeah, I mean, like, you can write stuff off like that too, right? Of course, we also mentioned the Nomad hack, and in terms of pure dollar value, upwards of $200 million drained from the Nomad bridge. This was, of course, a cross-chain, terrible, interoperable bridge that was, dealing with ETH, Solana, and a whole bunch of other cryptocurrencies. Of course, those bridges allow you to kind of move money back and forth from those different chains and whatnot. But not all is bleak. Of that almost $200 million, almost 20 million of it has been returned by white hat hackers. But this hack in particular, while you never like to see it, was interesting for one particular reason, as somebody called it, the first decentralized hack, where anybody could actually...
robbery.
Decentralized robbery. Basically crowdsourced looting was what somebody else called it, which I thought was a great term. Essentially, there was an exploit that was usable by anyone. You didn't really have to know a lot of, like, coding. You didn't have to have any, phishing links or anything like that. It was essentially just copy and pasting transactions, applying them with a different wallet address, and you would end up with those funds. Now, there was the white hat hackers had a method of altering it slightly so that those transactions couldn't be reversed on them again, but it was just pure pandemonium. And of that $200 million in total locked value, by the end of it, there was only $12,000. So I mean, this thing is just in absolute shambles. And it just goes to show you got to be very, very sure about the team, the company that are operating these bridges, these DeFi protocols, these lending services, all of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, if they don't have their systems and their protocols and their security locked down, it's all null because something like this happens. And this is massive, because it was just simply a one line of code in their update that somebody overlooked, and the hackers went, okay, cool. Now, apparently they got off a little bit lucky, because the hackers, if they had done a little bit more research or whatnot into how to do it, could have drained the entire bridge in one transaction, and they did not. So thankfully that some of the funds were recovered, but I think Nomad is probably pretty much done after this. So
Yeah, I don't think they're getting the majority of those assets back, but yeah, there's I mean, to shill ourselves in our newsletter, there's a solid thread on this whole thing. Someone
Yes.
basically sourced all of everyone's research. We'll drop it in the newsletter so you can actually look into it and read it yourself. But one of those tweets is literally a routine upgrade allowed verification messages to be bypassed on Nomad. So, I mean, their security wasn't there. There was no security.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm sure there's more to come of this, but yeah, 200 million. Again, what I was saying about Solana, like all people see in the mainstream news is just like, oh, crypto isn't safe. Like crypto, you're going to get hacked. Crypto, you're going to lose your money. Like it's all scams. It's just bad for adoption in the mainstream.
Yeah, and honestly, we're giving a lot of fuel to the fire recently with, the huge crash in crypto prices, falling 75% plus, some things going to zero like Luna. I mean, that's just clickbait across the board for any kind of news media outlet that wants to pick that up and put it on their website, because it's just huge numbers. And it's all true. Of course, Three Arrows Capital going under and all of that other stuff, it's just like more and more fuel to the fire. But these hacks, every time it's reported on, you get those outsiders looking in, be like, see, knew it's a scam, knew it's a Ponzi. This is all it is. It's just
confirmation
money.
bias.
For sure. And, despite the fact that if you take a longer time horizon and zoom out, crypto as a whole, these really trustworthy assets like the Bitcoin, like Ethereum, are doing incredibly well. That negative connotation is really hard to kind of pick back up from.
It's funny too.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, real quick. It's funny too, because like if you look at traditional media, like like the CNN and Fox and ABC or CNBC, whatever they are, most of them, they only report on the doom and gloom. But if you actually go to like financial outlets, all you see is like the hundreds of millions and billions of dollars coming into the crypto space. So it's like mainstream pushing that that's not where you want to be. That's not where the future is. But yet all the money's flowing into it.
Dirty, you got any final thoughts on these hacks?
I mean, it's definitely not. Sorry, what?
No, let me pause at this question then, right? Because, you have a friend, you have a social circle, IRL, that you talk to, interact with. Presumably, they know that you're into NFTs and crypto. What do they say? Do they ever bring this up to you? Do they ever see like, wow, crypto down bad, like sucks to be you? Or like, what is the kind of narrative from your outside looking in friends?
That's actually funny. I haven't really gotten in depth with a ton of this, and like the friends I have, they just don't understand it. There's like a defense up almost, like it seems, where they like don't want to understand it, or like they think that you're gonna be the annoying crypto guy, so you just they kind of write you off. So I've just kind of learned to just not be super vocal about it. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely the concerns, especially like with NFTs as well, like all the scams. And like you do, like the friends I have gotten into it, I've had to like give them the pep talk of like, don't, if somebody DMs you, like don't click on any links they send you, stuff like that. So it's definitely bad for the space. I mean, the unfortunate reality is of is that you just can't get it back like some of these like credit card hacks and stuff like that happen. So there's just definitely that aspect to it that's unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, I hope that something gets done as the space grows. It's just more security focused, more security in place, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm completely with you in talking about it with people IRL, right? Like sometimes it's just not worth the headache. They're like, "Ooh, how do I get into this?" I'm like, "Well, I could help you, but like there's a lot to unpack here, right?" Like, and you really do forget like how much of that knowledge you build up over time, right? In your fifth year of crypto, you just have all of these things. Like I learned from a very, very early time 5 years ago that MetaMask, you don't connect to sites that you don't know through MetaMask. And even at the time, MetaMask was connected to any site that you were on, right? Like you didn't even have to sign approval or whatnot back then. Like it was like if you are just browsing the web, like you better not have your MetaMask open because any site, if it wants to, can look into your wallet and actually see your seed phrase. Those were like completely different times, right? And you build up that defense, you build up that knowledge of what you're looking for. And honestly, like that little bit of paranoia kind of goes a long way that most people just don't have. So I mean, it's a great point when you say, when your Visa card gets hacked, you just call them up and you get it back, right? So, all right, let's move. Let's move
Real
on.
quick, if you
Oh yeah,
connect
go.
to a site, like all you're giving them is like basic information, like what's in your wallet and your address. You're not actually giving them access. It's like when you sign the transaction, that's when you get screwed. So like like right now, if you connect to a website, you're safe for the most part. Like if you don't like it, just disconnect and you're not going to lose anything. It's not until you sign the transaction where you actually screw yourself.
100%. Yeah. All right. Gucci announcing that they are going to be accepting ApeCoin on top of the already short list of cryptocurrencies that they have been accepting. And of course, Gucci was one of the big names that was accepting Bitcoin, accepting Ethereum for their high end retail stores. Now accepting ApeCoin payments via BitPay, select Gucci boutiques in the USA expand the range of cryptocurrencies available for in-store purchases. Yet another step in the house's exploration of Web3. Of course, this has already gone live. Oh, no, not quite going live, but there are people that are definitely waiting to go into the Gucci store to spend their ApeCoin on purchases there. Very interesting to me that this is being adopted by Gucci, although Gucci, very crypto, very NFT friendly. We saw them do the Super Plastic collab with the NFTs. We saw them collaborate with 10K ETF, making the Gucci Grails, which was upgrading your PFPs to Gucci-fy them. You could do it with the Bored Apes. You could do it with the Kennel Club, the Mutant Apes, World of Women. Like there were tons of different things that you could do with that. So very friendly. They obviously already have relationships built up in the Web3 space. So not crazy. The first question I have is, are they going to be using this and voting on the ApeCoin DAO? Because, now they're going to have some governance in the network. Kind of saying that tongue in cheek.
Really funny.
Yeah, Gucci's going to be one of the biggest players in the ApeCoin DAO.
They're going to put out like a vote, like should Gucci be the official apparel, brand for Ape?
I feel like they kind of are, just in conjunction with that 10K TF drop that they did, and some of those actually look pretty good. And people were actually buying the ape based ones as a way to get some kind of exposure to the Bored Apes. They were definitely selling at a premium over the other ones. Of course, ApeCoin has been going on a bit of a rally, not just on the Gucci news, but just in general, following crypto's trajectory up. We saw it hit lows of about $3.50, and this was in June. Now sitting at $7.30. Of course, ETH in that time has gone up considerably as well, but ApeCoin outpacing them. And I got to just say, like, ApeCoin is still relatively low, relatively affordable, and it's something that I gotta believe we got to start taking seriously. If something like Gucci, which isn't what most people are buying, is going to adopt it. Is that the first domino in it just being a more widely accepted cryptocurrency? And then, of course, the other side, by and large, being a hit, people really giving it the nod of approval when they were doing their test nets and whatnot. I got to believe that ApeCoin will be kind of the transactable within that metaverse that they are really, really leaning towards. And Yuga pretty hard to bet against at this point as well. I mean, their floors are holding up pretty good in this depressed market. They're still maintaining attention on it. We saw them at Tomorrowland, or at least the ape holder performing at Tomorrowland, and just constantly still making news in this time. How are you guys feeling about the ape ecosystem? Are you an ApeCoin holder? Does this inspire you to be, even if it's not to go out and buy Gucci? Drip, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I own some ApeCoin, but I mean, not that much, but enough to have some exposure. But I don't know. This whole thing is, honestly, it's like a culture nod to me. I think it just kind of is not only solidifying, Gucci in the NFT metaverse space, but also like there's definitely a culture in in the BAYC universe, and as the blue chip of blue chips. And if you're holding an ape, you're you know it's bragging rights. That's kind of, yeah, that's the best way to wrap it up. And then put Gucci on top of it, and having Gucci associated with that, like, I think it's good branding for them, and it makes sense. It's just it fits the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, it's just like not financial advice, but I really don't see any downside to holding like a small ape bag, especially if you're kind of paying attention to the NFT space as well. That's going to pump on any small announcement that they really post about. They're forever going to use it in their ecosystem. If one of their first collaborations is Gucci, I think that screams like loads for the future. Yeah, I think it's just great for the space overall. I've been in and out of ape. I don't own any right now, but I'm definitely thinking about getting some. Maybe if it drops below $7 again, I might jump back in. But honestly, again, for a long hold, I really don't see any downside to that.
And don't forget also, like, remember when they did the other deeds, like they, after that whole thing, and they burned, what was it, like 2 to 3 ETH per transaction, they were teasing their own chain. Like, obviously they're going to build a chain around ApeCoin. So
Yeah, I mean, the DAO voted against that, but it doesn't mean that it can't come up again and be a proposal. And it wouldn't really surprise me too, just because Ape really does like to kind of build its own little island and live on it and exist in it, right? Of course, that other side drop was a little bit controversial in the sense that the minting process of the other side deeds were going on in Ape, but of course you had to buy the Ape coin in ETH. Ape ended up pumping up to almost $25, which at the time was a very, very sharp spike up. And then of course, once the other side minted out with a gigantic gas war and ETH being burned left, right, and center, they ended up dumping dramatically. So people that were buying the top of ApeCoin were taking huge losses, not only in the fact that they burned Ape or they burned ETH to get it, and then of course didn't get their other sides, and now they're taking loss in ETH terms and whatnot. But it was just it just goes to show the type of hype and volume that they can drive every time they try and make one of these decisions. Is really just my overarching point to that, right? And it sucks that people lost out on that. That's crypto. It does happen. But we see this huge swell in the price action just on that. So, there's a large part of me believes that they really do just command this attention to move their own market whenever they want to make a big drop. And yeah, I mean, I think that once they decide they really have something that they're going to start the marketing hype cycle around, Ape is just going to go nuts with it. Again, even just as some kind of derivative exposure to their primary Bored Ape collection. So
I just remembered too, they've been teasing their demos for other side in the metaverse game. Like, there's no way they're not going to have in-game currency uses, and there's going to be only one currency you're going to use in that game, and that's Ape.
Yep.
100%.
It's gonna be Ape, and I do think it's going to continue to command a lot of value. And when I look at like the list of top cryptocurrencies, and Ape sitting at 34th with a $2.2 billion market cap, with the way with the exposure and the attention that the Bored Apes have, not only in the NFT space but in crypto space, and then not only in the crypto space but in the outside world. Because if I talk about NFTs to people and they're like, I'm not really sure, and I'm like, have you seen the Bored Ape, like the monkey pictures? Like, oh yeah, I know those, I know those, right? So like they really do have a huge mind share in the world at this point, right?
It's
And
100%. It's a culture thing. It's not. It's like beyond just NFTs. Like it's a whole. I don't want to say a lifestyle because I don't think they've quite gotten there yet. But definitely, it's a culture thing.
I think they have. Honestly, but I think it's for a small select group of people. Like, I mean, there are people who are like owning a Bored Ape is like their personality trait at this
That's
point.
a
Like,
good point.
let's
Actually, you're
be
right.
honest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Absolutely. You're
but
totally. Yeah.
when
Those
I
cosplays are pretty funky.
Do we think that they do the ape chain that was kind of discussed early on, and why they did their drop the way they did? I just feel like a company as big as they are, the way that they
my
optimized gas was just the grossest like thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
my gut is telling me that it doesn't actually happen. I I don't. I think that was almost more of a marketing ploy while that was going on because they were taking so much heat from it, and I think they tried to shift the narrative to like, well, don't look at us. Like ETH is the shit show here, right? Like, but
Yeah, but
I
it's
think
not
most people call.
like
Yeah, I know most people called them out on it, and then of course with the DAO vote when they were like, should we go to an alternate chain, not an alternate chain, our own chain, it was voted no. I do think that, things like um, ETH 2.0 really, really being close at this point and seeming to be a go is pretty much incentive to stay within that ecosystem. All of the development exists there. Most of the
yeah.
activity, most of the NFTs that are of any kind of value and relevance exist there. Solana having its own issues is, going to be hurt by ETH 2.0 existing because now the environmental part is kind of null and void because ETH is going to be reducing its carbon footprint by over 99%, right? Those are all big narratives that I think will lead them to stay on the Ethereum chain, and that's just my gut. So I don't see them. I think it's more of just like an attention seeking announcement or talking point where they're like, well, we could, and it just gets that narrative going because there's going to be, a bunch of people that say, yeah, do it. And then there's going to be a bunch of people that say no, but there's not a lot of like wishy-washy takes on that, right? When people start talking about it, it gets that conversation to be very, very big. But when I'm looking at the list of cryptocurrencies, like I don't see why ApeCoin can't be in the top 10 in value just based on its attention and relevance in the world at this point, right? Like I look at things like Ripple coin, like it shocks me every day that that's still seventh. Cardano seems to be 3 years away from being 3 years away from doing anything, even though they're constantly talking about it. And all of these other coins, like I don't see why Ape can't be in that conversation as one of the top cryptocurrencies, especially if they're metaverse, which presumably will have not just the Yuga Labs collections, but the other ones that they've teased in that ecosystem, right? They are going to be, commanding a lot of attention. And I don't think that it can be denied, really. So I think I'm just talking myself into going and buying ApeCoin after we're done here, really. Like I just,
ApeCoin Maxi.
yeah. And when Dirty Milk says there's not a lot of downside to holding it, like, be wary. Yeah, that's not like I know what you mean. It's not price downside, but it's like there's not a lot of downside against a lot of the other shit coins that you could be holding, right? Like
It's
owning
guaranteed they're going to
owning
integrate it.
ApeCoin
They're going to integrate it one way or another,
for
whether it
sure.
takes off or not. But I mean, if you can get in now, once they start integrating things, and you'll probably, it's a chance to make a little profit. 100%.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking as just even like a long-term hold or whatever. Like I think that this is one of those coins, and there's only a handful of them on this list that I think when we're talking about this in 5 years and we're on Exit Liquidity episode number 8, just kidding. We're gonna be we're gonna be like, man, $7 was so cheap, right? Like that's where I'm at with this. So could it go to $6 right now? I don't see why not. I mean, we're in this short-term market phase where anything is on the table. But when you take a long-term horizon kind of view of it and you want to lock up some liquidity in a longer-term investment, I don't see why Ape wouldn't be on the short list of good ones to do.
Yeah.
NFA,
always,
DYOR, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Not financial advice. Yeah. You can always dollar cost average in too. So
of course. Yeah. And I mean, I'm a big proponent of dollar cost averaging because I'm not good at timing tops and bottoms in this market. And, I'm more than happy to just be like, maybe I'll just buy, and you can buy it on Coinbase too, right? Like you can set it right from
Yeah.
your bank account.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to buy $100 worth of ApeCoin every week, right? And like that might just be a really good long-term DCA investment. So, man, I'm talking myself into it more and more and more. Love you guys. Speaking of metaverses, we've talked a lot about Facebook, of course, now called Meta, continuing their expanse and their march towards their own metaverse and getting that IOI from Ready Player One vibes from them. Of course, I actually listened to an older interview a couple months ago, with Tim Ferriss on the Tim Ferriss podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, and man, I gotta say, like, love him or hate him, if in a vacuum when you're listening to that guy talk, like he is a very smart and very convincing person, right? Like it's just one of those things that like I he speaks so eloquently and so long-term focused on these things that you gotta believe that he knows that this is a direction he wants to be going in. Of course, even just rebranding to Meta. But as of today, Instagram, we've talked about this a lot in the past, will be incorporating NFTs onto their platform. We've often talked about Instagram being not only the perfect platform for this, with just pictures, a lot of content creation from independent users and whatnot, but also one of the most hostile places towards NFTs. Right? If it's not a NFT focused page, if you have a content creator that's jumping into NFTs, typically, by and large, the narrative around it is, oh my God, not you too, right? Like the only person that seemed to be immune from that narrative was Justin Bieber when he posted his Bored Ape, and everyone's like, Biebs, you're so cute. Like, but other than that, like everybody hates it, right? Hates it. Meta, not afraid of doing that. So as of today, you're going to be able to connect your digital wallet, including, where's those lists of them? Rainbow, MetaMask, Trust Wallet, Coinbase Wallet, and Dapper Wallet is coming soon. They're going to be supporting ETH, Polygon, and Flow. Flow being the recipient of a massive run up on this announcement, up 33% today, and it just took like a straight line up on that.
Straight up.
On that news, right? So great trade if you're holding on to Flow. But yeah, I mean, they're going for it. They're going for NFTs, and there's a lot of discussion about how far they'll take it, right? You'll be able to share your NFTs in your stories, in your posts, so that all your friends can laugh at you for how much you've lost on them in the last 2 months. But
Down bad.
the next obvious step is, of course, minting and creating NFTs on their platform, being able to support creators through buying those NFTs and holding them. Instagram integration is going to be pretty key for this. I'm kind of excited for it, but I'm also not in a rush to connect my wallet to Instagram just yet. So I'm not advocating that anybody does
I'd
this.
like my two main thoughts on this one are one, like how much is this keeping up with the Joneses in the sense of Twitter rolling this out? What was that? Was that beginning of this year or last year? Whatever. Twitter, you can connect
Beginning of this year, yep.
Yeah, you can connect your NFTs and do that whole thing. So I'm curious, are they trying to use this to say like, yeah, we're doing it too? Like, not that we necessarily want to, but we want to have that feature because Twitter has it. And then the second, which is even bigger to me, is Facebook put out, or Meta, whatever, Instagram put out this huge message earlier this year saying like, hey, we're moving away from images and we're moving into video. Like they're trying to directly compete with TikTok, and most NFTs are just images. So I'm kind of like, okay, so which direction are you going? And now it kind of like, if they eventually they obviously are going to integrate everything into the metaverse and the meta and blah 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 blah. But like, it's kind of like, which is this platform going to be focusing more, towards video and trying to compete with TikTok, or are they going to try to integrate it into their metaverse with NFTs, or again, are they just trying to have a feature because Twitter has it?
I think a lot of, sorry, Dirty, do you want to jump in there before I go?
I mean, I don't like, I think this is great for mass adoption. I have zero desire to post my NFTs on Instagram though.
Agreed.
I don't really collect, like there's not, like, it's not something that I just have a ton of desire to do. I don't think it's going to do as well as they might hope, because there's just people who collect. It's just such a small number still. And then on top of that, most people are just trying to make money opposed to actually collect, so they're just going in and out of wallets. So I don't know. it's cool for mass adoption. I just don't think it's going to get a ton of use right away.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you as of how much it's actually going to get used, right? Because at this point, it's only going to be the NFT degens that are hopping on there so that they can post their current collection and whatnot. But I do see this going a long way in reducing the friction towards getting NFTs, right? And I am actually pretty surprised, to be honest with you, that they're using the Ethereum, Polygon, and Flow blockchains rather than kind of creating their own, right? I think that was always, by and large, the speculation that is, if they were going to do it, it was going to be on their own blockchain that they were using, and really kind of keeping it in house, right? So I'm excited for this in the sense of like the content creators getting on board with it too. Like if they can really reduce the friction of content creators being able to mint and sell NFTs, it's going to have these like really kind of twofold effects. One is it going to get a lot of like really liked people into the game very easily. I think that in Instagram, they will be working towards a lot of like token gated content too. If you are an owner of my NFTs, now you get this extra content. Maybe you can DM me. Maybe I will post things specific to only my token holders, so you get a little bit of behind the scenes access. Of course, we always talk about like, you know, concert access or meet and greets and stuff like that, which would be pretty cool too. But I think that that's a really cool first step towards it. The other thing too is, you know, if you were a staunch supporter of I'm trying to just think of like one specific like Instagram, you know, let's just say like a relatively niche Instagram account. Maybe they have 750,000 followers, which is still big in the grand scheme of things, but not massive like a Justin Bieber or something. Maybe if they launch an NFT project, you know, maybe, you know, 49 out of 50 people just fucking hate it, right? Like they're just like, I wish you weren't doing this. But that one person, to get them in and be like, I really like this person. I really just want to support them. I'm going to do this. Now, all of a sudden, you've got somebody going down the rabbit hole of what else is here? What, you know, how much more meat is on this bone? And I do think that you're really going to get people starting to understand that NFTs are here, like they exist. They're going to be integrated into these platforms that I've used every single day, and it's not just this fringe market that I see these nerds talking about how much money they've made or lost, and you know, pictures of monkeys. I think that this actually just really makes it real to people, and I think that that's going to be one of the biggest things. And now you can have that debate of whether or not you want Facebook, Meta, Mark Zuckerberg to be really at the helm of this. But you know, in the decentralized settings, there's always going to be those extra options for people to go look towards, and they will find them. It might not be everybody, but I think they will find them. So I'm actually just really intrigued to see what the reception is of this on Instagram, how many people quickly use it, or if this just turns into the Coinbase NFT marketplace where it was like really hyped up and then it was just like, okay, we're here, and everyone's like, yeah, fuck, whatever, we're over it. So yeah, I don't know if any of those like thoughts resonate with you guys. I mean, I'm just not one of those people that are like, the Web 2 businesses can stay in Web 2 and we'll do our own thing. Like I think we do need it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's great for the overall space. I'm just curious how it goes, see how it gets used.
Web3 people have a tendency to be a little bit of hipsters, you know, like, I liked Web3 before it was cool, right? Like, so,
I just don't use Insta. Like, the more and more I get involved in the Web3 space, I just feel like the less and less I've used Instagram. So maybe this brings me back. That's I don't know, but I use Instagram for my like personal account, and everything else, all of my other socials are like my pseudonym Dirty Milk. So and they don't cross. Like nobody that follows me from really my real, like my personal life follows me in my Web3 life. I've for some reason just not intentionally kept them separate, but it's just kind of happened that way. So I spend so much time here that I don't know how much time I'm spending there, but we'll see. Bring me back.
Drip, is that the same for you? Like you keep your socials separated, and I mean, obviously you use a pseudonym.
I use the same pseudonym everywhere, but like I don't really do anything on socials. Like I've never been that guy. Yeah, it's not really gonna change anything for me. I mean, I use my BGAN as my profile picture on Instagram, but
Love it.
like I don't post anything. Rarely. I might post like once a month, if not every couple months. So
Does anybody ever ask you about it either? Like if it's just sitting
no,
there, like no.
no one cares.
Somebody asked me about
But
your
also,
PFP once, actually.
yeah,
About
A
mine?
friend, no, about drips.
Oh.
Our friend was like, does Drip have a CryptoPunk? And I was like, no. I had to like explain like what it was, because I was like, that would be like really epic, but it's still really cool, but it's not a CryptoPunk. Sorry.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really use any socials besides like Twitter for like crypto and NFT Twitter. But I don't know. All I hear about is how Instagram is just the worst platform now because they're just pushing their TikTok narrative. So,
Yeah, the last update that they did too has caused a lot of people, prominent people, to be like, "Can we leave Instagram as Instagram?" Like, I know you're trying to do the Reels thing, and I know you're trying to capitalize on that, but we actually like using Instagram for the fact that it was different rather than like trying to copy it. And I gotta agree with them, because I am actually quite an avid Instagram user. I've curated my feed to be, my news, my sports, not really a whole lot of Web3 stuff, because I get that everywhere else. But I liked logging in and scrolling for 15 minutes, and I felt like I was caught up in the world with a lot of things, right? Now I barely see anybody that I follow, because it's all either ads, sponsored posts, collaborative posts, and whatnot, and it's all video, as you mentioned, right? Like, what are you trying to be? So I'm hoping that there's some pressure there to revert that, because I think that they're going to see, the more they try and be TikTok, the more people are just going to be like, myself included, be like, if I have to use this, I might as well just use TikTok, which is better at being TikTok than Instagram is. So
go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just going to say, maybe that, external push from all of these influencers and users to go back to being Instagram, along with the fact that there's this, I'm putting on the wrong side here, this new stuff that's coming out, in a Web3 sense. Maybe it's going to be appealing to them to continue to operate the way that they did before. Sorry, what were you saying?
I mean, I know they got to, Instagram has to, keep relevant, but yeah, I follow a ton of photographers, and like either not so much on their Instagrams, but more their YouTube channels, because they do like, gear reviews or like technical breakdowns of things, and I really enjoy that, being a photographer myself. But like all of them basically have put out some sort of video saying like, screw Instagram. Like, and ironically enough, a lot of photographers are moving to Twitter, which is becoming like the new photography platform,
really?
which is really interesting. But yeah, I basically just echoing your sentiment, and influencers saying like, can we leave Instagram alone, please?
Yeah.
Or like they're all using those like, kind of gray hat tricks where they're posting, images as videos instead of actual images. And it's just kind of like, okay, so now you just have to gamify the system. So eventually people will probably get punished for that if they're not already, but it's,
I think the big issue is it's culture. Every social platform has their own culture. Like, even if you go into the comments of like Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, they have like their own language that they speak in. Like the people, it's this full-blown culture, and they're trying to adopt culture by functionality. And I just don't think that it works that way. You're trying to introduce this function that somebody else has, forgetting that there's an entire culture that makes it work. And Instagram just does not have that. It's like that's always been the big joke, like the Snapchat to Instagram joke, like me on Instagram versus me on Snapchat. Like that, there's a reason why that's a joke, and that's a saying, is because of two different cultures and how they're perceived. And if you're just like one day, and in my opinion, TikTok is hands down the best social media app on the market right now, and everybody shits on it, and I totally get it, because they're like, it's 12-year-olds dancing. It's like, well, first of all, the TikTok only shows you what you're interested in, you weirdo. So if that's what you're watching,
love it.
But like, and then like second,
there's the intro clip.
It's just like the functionality of TikTok is just years ahead of, and discoverability on TikTok is years ahead of any other social app right now.
You and I and ASG have talked about it relentlessly, but their algorithm is unmatched. It's insane.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, like it's so dialed, and it's only getting more dialed every day. It's pretty freaking wild.
And that was the big thing that, you know, Instagram doesn't do very well anymore because you actually can't really go viral on Instagram because there's no real proper discovery mechanisms that a lot of these like YouTube is the world's second biggest search engine, right behind Google. TikTok, most people, you know, whether you're following people or not, you're just looking at the For You page, right? And you're seeing it, and that you know, the interaction on those posts will you know, really drive the adoption. But I mean, I think we've talked about, you know, social media stuff enough, but like I think that this is one of the first dominoes. I think you will see more of these social platforms continue to integrate them, especially as the technology behind NFTs begins to push and advance. Some other real quick news before we wrap this show up. Magic Eden is integrating into the Ethereum chain. They're going to be able to buy Ethereum NFTs with Solana and sorry, lost my train of thought there. But you know, they're going after OpenSea and their market dominance in Ethereum. OpenSea, of course, you'll be able to check this out in our newsletter. Had a bit of a gaffe where you can actually buy NFTs for people and gift it to them, but you know, they didn't set it so that it was well known that that person wasn't buying it. So now people were buying NFTs on behalf of Gary Vee, behalf of some of the big NFT influencers, and you know, causing these fake hype cycles by thinking that Gary Vee just jumped into their project. Is this going to be enticing you to use Magic Eden because OpenSea kind of just sucks, or you know, we're just going to stick with what works? Go to Looks Rare, X2Y2. How are we feeling about this jump?
I'm probably like, I haven't used Magic Eden enough to really have an opinion on that, I guess, just because I don't trade on Sol. But if it works better than OpenSea, I have no problem. Like I've been using OpenSea less and less the more I am in the space. I think the X2Y 2 and Looks Rare just
Looks Rare, yeah.
Yeah, it's just it makes so much more sense. I get the convenience aspect to OpenSea is that it's OpenSea and it's kind of everybody uses it, and it's going to give you kind of the best idea of like floor prices and stuff like that. But honestly, like sometimes the floor is higher on Looks Rare and stuff like that. So it's like just might be a small discrepancy, but
Not
I've
to go and
definitely,
mention though, those other exchanges have lower fees on them,
yeah.
which can
Sorry,
add
that
up too, right? And there's a rewards embedded in them too for using their platform rather than OpenSea just, you know, absorbing their 2.5%, which I think they're probably going to have to lower pretty soon, to be honest with you, which is going to be tough because they are trying to go public. But I think that the competition is knocking on the door. Drip, how about you?
Yeah, when I first heard about Magic Eden, I was obviously interested just because I was like, oh, a new marketplace, but quickly found out it was like Solana based only. But I really like what they're doing. I like how it looks.
Yes.
The UI is
does look
good, super
nice.
user friendly. But anything other than OpenSea, OpenSea is so bad. I still use it out of habit if I'm trying to move something fast. Like OpenSea, 'cause that's where most of the volume is. But yeah, you're better off using Luxrare, or X2Y2. But yeah, OpenSea just fumble after fumble. Someone will replace them. There's just no way. I know they're the first mover. They have a ton of funding and money, but it's such it's so bad. It's routinely bad, and maybe they'll use this bear market to make a better platform and experience. I doubt it, but yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with Magic Eden and how that goes.
I
I mean,
find
there's a
all of go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say there's a couple days in June that X2Y2 had more volume than OpenSea. So
There you
you
go.
never know.
I mean, that I wonder how much of that comes to penny pitching though, because I know X2Y2 on the majority of their collections, the collection owners, they forget to, set royalties. So I know there's like, a little, there you go, fun pro trading tip right there. So I wonder how much of that is penny pinching, because that was when we were kind of hitting those like all-time lows.
I don't know. It sounded cool to say though. That's for sure.
It did. Yeah. I'll give you that one. Sorry if I, ran on that parade.
Yeah. Well, you guys can duke it out down there. But yeah, Magic Eden, I got to say, if you log on there and if you haven't because you're not a Sol trader, I mean, they have a very clean interface. The functionality is far better than OpenSea. And every time I log into OpenSea and they make these little UI changes, there's a lot of me that's like, why? Why did you do this? Like, why did you move that button over there?
Yeah.
And that's not one of those like, goddamn change. Like, I'm not opposed to change when it's more functional, when it's more rational, when it streamlines the process, less clicks, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of times it just feels like somebody just did something for the sake of doing something. They're like, Trevor, what did you work on this week? And they're like, oh, I moved the items number from the left to the right side. And they're like, yes, got it.
Yeah,
Perfect,
I'm convinced
right?
they have like a UI shuffle button that they press at
Yes.
the beginning of each week, and it just shuffles everything around really quick.
Because I never feel like, what did this add to my experience, right?
Yeah.
Like none of the changes are like, oh, that's good. Like, well done, OpenSea.
What did they just changed something recently too? That was like really bad. Now I'm totally blanking on what it was.
Like, give me some more analytics. Give me some more graphs or charts to look at or something, right? Like they have the access to all this information. They know the bulk of their money, especially at this point, is coming from people that are just trading pictures back and forth, trying to, win the degen roulette cycle. Give them the access and incentivize them to be on the OpenSea as much as possible. And, it's these little chunks here and there that looks rare in X2Y2 and now Magic Eden are taking out of their attention share that are going to compound when the volume starts to return, right? That's why I said, I think that 2.5% is going to have to come down, or they're going to have some kind of loyalty program or whatnot to do that, because these other, exchanges are just offering so much incentive to people that are trading large volumes on there that they just can't ignore it, because that's an extra edge that you have in trying to flip your way to a profit, right? That extra, the difference between 2.5% and a 2% royalty coming from the exchange is not 0.5%. It's a 20% reduction. Right? Like that's a big amount when you're flipping a couple of JPEGs a day, or a very high priced JPEG in a one day, right? Like that stuff adds up and it matters to people.
Yeah, when margins are small, especially right now in some of these free mints, some of these degen mints, every 0.01 ETH counts.
It does. It does. All right, let's get to the last segment of our show. Cool Cats. Cool Cats is a bit of a head scratcher. They announced that they are doing the Joe collection, story-driven, instant reveal, varying rarities, and then cool, and an arrow pointing to exotic, designed in collaboration with the community.
It's their tier system.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's their tier system.
Yeah. And then more to come, coming Q4 2022. Let's say it with us. Hashtag Let's Joe.
Let's Joe. Somebody got a raise for that hashtag 100%.
Wait, does anyone actually?
That's like the ultimate boomer hashtag, right? Like that is something that I would expect from like Coca-Cola to like come up with, like their Web 2 marketing team being like, yeah, let's Joe. Like
it feels like that Pepsi.
Dude, my dad is 70 and he's more clever than that. I mean, like
Chipotle at least came up with buy the dip, like killer. Love it.
That one,
right?
That one, yeah,
that's fantastic. Actually,
it's a great one.
Yeah, let's Joe delete the collection or dilute the collection more.
Like if you search the hashtag, on Twitter, it's very weird. Like there's some
risky click of the day.
No, not explicit by any means.
The way you said weird, I was like,
no, it's just such a weird like collection of tweets. Like I don't know. It's not. They probably should have done something else. Anyway, yeah, see what I mean? Like you can see, it's just like a bunch of weird random things.
So let's break down Cool Cats a little bit, because at one point they were an elite collection knocking on the door of being a blue chip.
They were literally like top three blue chip for a while.
100%. Well, and I mean, you said it right there. You called it a blue chip. I never would have. Obviously, the definition of it is a little bit different, varying from person to person. But there were plenty of people that considered it to be a blue chip project. Of course, they went through a lot of turmoil with their Cool Pets drop. the first knock on them was that, they did all of these huge raffles to try and get people into their ecosystem. They gave away all of these allow list spots. People were really excited about it, and then announced that this each mint at the time was going to be about $2,000 each or $1,500 each. That was back when ETH was, $3,000, $4,000, because they were half an ETH each, which for a lot of people is nothing. But for even more people that are trying to enter the ecosystem and get on board with one of these things, that's a big price tag. And they're bringing in a lot of money in doing so. But of course, they also fumbled the bag in actually launching the game. It took them months and months and months to get their stuff together. And it was one of those things of like, this is Cool Cats. This is one of the premier flagship enterprises of the NFT space. And you can't even launch a simple P2E game that, as it turned out, wasn't even really that good. And now nobody's talking about it. So what was once a 15 ETH floor is now at 2.75. Now, of course, every project has been the recipient of a bit of a pullback in this downturn, but 2.75 ETH is very low. It is more dramatic. It is more pronounced than almost any of the top tier NFT collections. Doodles, in the wake of all of this, got up to a 15 ETH floor, in the recessed volume. And here is Cool Cats.
Yeah, they've been like the fall from grace story. Like they were
100%
touted as one of the top 3, top 5 like blue chip projects. Like it was my original like, oh, you want to invest in something and you can't afford an ape or a punk, like Cool Cat, go Cool Cat. It's a safe bet. I feel like also like they'll be part of like like business courses. You do like company studies, as like a project or something. It's usually some study on how a company has failed. I feel like if there are metaverse courses in the future, like Cool Cats will be like, you want to know how to blow your entire project and ruin your community, do this. Like Cool Cats will be like the study for that.
Which is weird because, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like a lot of stuff they introduced wasn't that weird considering like space standards. It was just like almost like the timeline in which they did it at that, and like there was a lot of lack of communication. And then they had like, once the game was actually released, because it's like a project like, going to do a game isn't unheard of. It's like one of the most popular moves around the time that they made this move. But it just seemed like the way that they went about it was so odd. And I think that this could have like even worse implications just on cute PFPs as a whole, because that kind of held them up, gave a lot of cute PFPs a reason to
absolutely
to have potential. And now I don't think Doodles really fall into the same realm as these art wise. Yeah, I don't know how they did it so wrong while doing so many of the same things that everybody else does. Does that make sense?
I know there's rumors that like the core team stepped away or like got bought out or whatever, and they were just kind of salary guys after, and like right before the game or right after the game was announced or something. So I think like that core following and or that core belief and core driving force was kind of removed from it. So that's why this is what I've heard. Again, this is not confirmed. I don't know if the actual sale of Cool Cats has ever been confirmed. I know there definitely were rumors going around, but
yeah, there was always something behind the scenes there that people thought was going on with Cool Cats. But I mean, it's just a bizarre look that, Cool Pets is sitting at a 0.16 0.16 floor right now. Doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I don't see any excitement about it. I don't see a lot of Cool Cats NFTs, floating around on people's PFPs anymore. And I'm just curious as to if launching a derivative project is the way that they want to try and gain some, attention back towards them. I think it's just more dilution in their ecosystem. And I maybe they're going to do this in a creative way. Maybe there's going to be some big announcement that comes with it later. Of course, this is slated for Q4. So we got some time before that's actually going to hit. But I don't know. I don't know if like buying a Cool Cat here is a great investment or a terrible investment, right? Like I don't I would like 2.7 ETH floor. And, it's kind of a weird question to say, are you buying here? Because if you wanted to, you just could. But can you find any bull case as to why you think this is going to go up substantially higher than something else? Is it just the fact that their legacy, that they were right there, that they are one of the more well-known collections, and that maybe eventually they'll just be the recipient of that legacy kind of pump and swell? What are you thinking?
I think that's the only real thing that they have going for them at this point that could potentially get them higher, unless they just like do something crazy and impress us out of nowhere. I don't know. They should do some kind of mass burn event on the pets, offset this new thing, but that'd be tough to convince a bunch of pet holders to do.
Yeah, I don't think
burn your pets. Good good
well, as
headline.
like a claim. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
You definitely, I mean, if you want to try to do a short-term trade, like there's definitely going to be some volume on this once some more details come out, and they start really kind of, again, if they do it right, they start hyping up the marketing around the Joe collection. So definitely watch for that if you're willing to take the risk. But yeah, dude, I don't see how this helps Cool Cats at all. I don't. I mean, yeah, maybe you get some new people in there and into the community, into the ecosystem, and I assume this is going to be a pretty low price point. Maybe they learned from their pets. I don't know. So yeah, maybe they'll generate some revenue, but long term, I don't see how this helps core holders or community at all.
Yep, gotta agree. I don't have any hot takes on this other than just we've seen it time and time again. Launching new collections just tends to have a negative effect on your project unless you do it in a very creative, very exciting way that is inviting for new people to come into your ecosystem. The ones that have done it best, like the Azukis, the Bored Apes, of course, it's typically as a way of expanding their collection because their primary collection has become too out of reach for the normal person to have any kind of exposure to, right? Like we saw Bored Apes get up to these really high floor prices, and then they did Mutant Apes. Mutant Apes got up to these really high floor prices and became unaccessible to the average person, and they were launched ApeCoin. Azuki, shot up to 1920 ETH and actually held in that ballpark for quite some time before they airdropped Beans to everyone. And then Beans, of course, were just to Azuki holders that could part ways with them at any price point they saw fit in the fair market. And that stuff really just seemed to work. But, 2.75 ETH on the lowest listed Cool Cat right now, don't get me wrong, that's still a very expensive JPEG when you're talking in dollar terms, but not completely out of the realm of inaccessible. And then if you want to drill down to Cool Pets, I mean, most people in this space could probably drum up 0.16 to grab a couple of these if you really want exposure to Cool Cats. So I just don't know what they're trying to achieve with this. Of course, this is the early stages of their announcement and their Let's Joe hashtag, but we'll be following it relatively closely. And I'm sure there'll be more to come back on.
I'm looking at the tweet right now with the replies. Like it's like, I would say it's a healthy mix, if not 50-50 of like people aren't even using their Cool Pets, PFPs if they have them. Most of these people are not already in there, or maybe they are and they're just not. I don't know, but I don't know. I have no idea. This is not the move, but not my decision.
Dirty, you got any final thoughts on this?
I don't like it. Seems weird.
It feels like they're abandoning Cool Pets, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, let's give them one last claim before we ride off into the sunset.
Now, I guess the only other thing I could say is, like, as Drip Cult mentioned, there's always been these like rumors or ideas that maybe there was some kind of acquisition, and maybe it's going to tie into like a bigger announcement that they're not quite ready to make yet, or something to that extent. But at this point, it's really only theorizing as to what it could mean, and I really don't have anything substantial to add to it other than just it's another thing in the long list of weird things that I feel like Cool Cats have done. And I really do get the sense that most of their staunchest supporters have really kind of just abandoned a lot of hope for that project, right? Like I that was the real sense for a long time of like, what's going on here? Like we used to be, something, and now we're just not feeling that way. So All right, guys. On that note, do you have any final thoughts before I wrap this show up?
Just if you're looking to get back in the markets, get back out there, fam. Money
There's
to be
opportunities
made
for sure. Yeah,
Definitely.
if you're willing to sit at your computer, if you're willing to grind, if you're willing to, follow what's happening and dropping, like there's money to make for sure. Absolutely.
You got it. All right. On that note, we are going to wrap up episode number 2 of Exit Liquidity. Keep an eye out for that newsletter. Hit up exitliquidity.io. We'll have all of the links that we talk about in the show in those newsletters, as well as a lot more for you, including things that were mentioned but not really covered in depth here. Again, just a great morning read twice a week while you're sitting on the can or waiting for your coffee to make. So we appreciate everyone's time. Love the feedback. If you have any feedback for us, make sure to hit us up in the comments, or even better, drop into the Alpha Mint Discord. Come say hi and let us know how you're feeling about the show. We always love the feedback. We're always looking to make things bigger and better, and we couldn't do it without your help. So on that note, Drip Cult, Dirty Milk, episode number 2 in the books. We will see you again soon. Peace.
Later, fam.
See you guys.
Goodbye, everybody. I've got to go.